Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing Cyber Speedway for the Sega Saturn, aka a Gran Chase. And now why I'm holding both of these up is the fact that, okay, it's the same game, but it's one of the very few games in my collection where I actually have the same game from more than one region. Now, I have tried my very hardest to try and play this on all my Sega Saturns, and it gets frozen at the same spot. I figure there's something wrong with the disc, and there's not really a whole lot I can do about that apart from, you know, buy another one. But why would I when I have the Japanese copies? So what you're going to be seeing is lots of gameplay from Gran Chaser instead. So without further ado, here is the review for Gran Chaser, aka Cyber Speedway. You know what is 100% indicative of what we're dealing with here? Go look up Cyber Speedway on Wikipedia. Now go Wiki Wipeout, a similar and often compared futuristic racer released around the same time. The important distinction is that Cyber Speedway came out first, the difference of a couple of months. One being a huge success that it spawned numerous sequels, and the other is Cyber Speedway. Cyber Speedway, also known as Gran Chaser in Japan, was released in 1995 and developed by Nextech and published by Sega themselves. So let's find out exactly why this game shall remain in infamy forever. Menu presentation is absolutely 100% abysmal. It has to be the worst menu system I have ever seen. Even the shittiest games I've reviewed with bad menu presentation is still heads and tails above this. My complaints in Hardcore 4x4, where everything kind of blurred into each other and ends up looking like a washed out mess, put more time and effort and is still far better looking in terms of menu only. It does get better once in game though. We do get a comprehensive amount of information, but I also felt that there was too much on screen. The boost and power bars could have gone, the shield could have been smaller, the placement of the position could have been moved down to the bottom left, and the map could have been moved to the top left, where that sort of information could have been more useful. And this circle of dashes could have gone too, and I'll talk more about that during the gameplay section. Graphics of the game are pretty good. Detailing is not great on its own, but consider this. It's 1995 on a home console with this sense of speed, and when you take that into consideration, it's actually pretty good. Color variation is pretty good with the emphasis on different color palettes in each level. Color choice of the map is a bit gross, but that also could just be a 90s thing. The draw distance is not too bad, even though there is pop-in, but the distance they give you when you're not on a very bendy track, which is actually only one or two of them, is generally pretty good. Animation is pretty good and pretty smooth as well. Sound is actually a clear highlight of the game. I must point out too that Cyber Speedway had different music to Gran Chaser, but both soundtracks are pretty good. Certainly sets different atmospheres, but nothing too jarring. Sound effects are all full sounding and on point. Gameplay is where the game takes a pretty substantial dive, and it's a shame because up until now, it's been mostly positive except for the menu presentation, which doesn't really add much to the game itself, but certainly sets the tone for the atmosphere and expectation. My first and obvious qualm is the handling of the vehicles, or as they like to be called, sleds. They handle pretty poorly, doesn't matter which one you choose, they all handle like the emotional roller coaster that is your ex-girlfriend. Also, the reason I felt the circle of dashes could have been removed from the presentation was because of how unnecessary the weapon mechanic was in the game. You could have removed that mechanic and the game would have played out about the same. They don't leave enough rockets around the course for it to actually mean something. Then when you do pick them up and shoot them, they go right over the heads of everyone. If you have a target right in front of you, I hope you didn't plan on shooting them, which by the way is the exact time that you would use a rocket, because they rarely hit, even if they're 20 meters in front of you, dead center. My final complaint was the courses felt soulless. I don't know how you remedy this, but there's nothing particularly distinctive about each of the courses that makes you want to sit there and memorize it, unless it was the 90s and this was purchased on a whim and now you're stuck playing it until you've finished it. The only exception to this was the water section on the first course. You have two modes, free run mode and story mode. Story mode is broken into standard and advanced modes. Each mode has different configurations of the same 5 tracks, but advanced includes a hidden 6th track. The story plays out identical in both modes. Would I recommend this game? No. The Saturn did some of the best races of the era, but this is certainly not one of them. It looks and it sounds good, but actually playing it is frustrating and disappointing.